This Civic Media podcast is sponsored by UW Organ and Tissue Donation. Organ donations are desperately needed, and now is the right time to become an organ donor. Talk to your family. Get the dot. Save lives. Go to heroicdeed.com.
And welcome to the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO. Online at WXCO.FM. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. With former Wausau West High School head football coach Jason Foster, I'm Chad Holmes. Coming up on the program a little bit later on, we'll be talking to Abbotsford football coach Jacob Knapmiller. Also, Wausau West senior Will McCorison will be our student-athlete guest. But to start off the show right away, we're very happy to welcome back to the program the head football coach of the Edgar Wildcats, Jerry Sinz. And Coach, first of all, I know that Wednesday's always a very busy evening. Really appreciate you spending a few minutes with us.
Oh, sure, yeah.
We'll jump right in because I know that you have some religious education work coming up in about 15 minutes, even a little less than that. I guess my first question is going to be kind of an open question. How would you characterize the 2024 Edgar Wildcats? What jumps out about this team that's led to the success so far this campaign?
Well, I think these guys really play together well. They're very serious about studying film carefully. We don't really have to, talk to them about it all much. And they're a pretty smart crew, which of course helps. Last year's crew really was too. They've kind of surprised me that they've kind of like achieved even more than I thought, especially after losing one of our top players the second game of the year.
Coach, obviously you guys have an incredible tradition there year in, year out, coming off another state championship. How important to your success is just the routine that you guys have? Like this is what you do weeks 1 through 9. This is what you do during camp. This is what you do weeks 1, 2, 3 playoffs. How important is it that you keep that consistency and that these kids who now it's their turn, they got to watch it when they were younger in the program? What role does that play?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. We never have to really reprimand anybody much or even encourage them all out amount. I mean, we have weightlifting. Everybody shows up. That's just the way it is. Like today, we had a guy from Channel 9 come out for a little segment before practice, and so I was talking to him a little bit, and all the kids just start practice by themselves. The other coaches, some of them are still in school because they don't get out of school until 3:15, but it gets dark so darn early now that you have to try to get started right away. And all of a sudden, I saw the guys start their warm-up activity, and the captains and seniors are just leading it. So those kinds of things are certainly helpful. The expectation that we're always going to be ready and prepared and so on, that's all part of it.
Early in the season, obviously, you had your annual war with the Stratford Tigers, and they came over to Edgar this year and handed you your only loss. What did your team find out that week that's helped you go through your conference campaign undefeated and get you now to the level 3 playoffs?
Well, yeah, that was an unfortunate game for us. We lost 2 senior starters that game, one with basically a broken ankle and the other one with a knee injury. And so we played the entire season without him. When it first happened, especially Jace Applebeck, who was our top player returning, was a 3-year starter at linebacker. He was our leading rusher and our leading scorer returning to our team from the year before, and a captain. That was a big loss. It happened early in the second quarter. I did think we recovered during the game from it and played pretty well. The game was only 14-8 in the fourth quarter, and of course, Stratford has proven to be a very good team, sitting at 11-0 right now in Division 5. We didn't have any time to feel sorry for ourselves because we had Auburndale coming up the next week, and we knew they were very good. And they surprised me how well we played at Auburndale. in our first conference game, and then we've just kind of continued to improve from there.
Coach, you guys always find a way to score enough points to win the games, whether it's through big plays on defense or special teams or getting your offense rolling with a combination run and passing the ball. But I've always been really impressed listening to you talk over the year, whether it be at coaches' clinics or coming to watch you at practice or just following your games, how impressive your defense is. And obviously this past week your defense had a really nice game again. Talk to me about the guys who play defense for you this year and what makes your defense special again this year.
Well, our defensive backs are very experienced. 3 out of the 4 of them started all year last year, of course, at state. The fourth guy played a lot, too, so 4 out of our top 5 guys returned. And if you don't allow any big plays, long plays in a game, of course, then it becomes tough for the opponents, to score. Our middle linebacker, who kind of took over when Jace Appleback went out there in the Stratford game, Ty Schnelly, he's been our defensive captain now and our signal caller. He's had a really good year. He's very fast, probably the fastest middle linebacker we've ever had, runs about a 4.5, 40, very hard weight trainer and so on. The outside guys are good athletes too, the outside linebackers. Our 2 defensive tackles are both seniors and one of the returning starter, and they're big. Corey Keppel and Fletcher Weiland. Corey's about 260, Fletcher about 230, 235. And our defensive ends have some size too. Dakota Ellenbecker is senior, is like 222. And the other guy, Lucas Stanke, started last year as a sophomore. He's 6'1", maybe 205. So we have decent size in the defensive line. We got a lot of speed at linebacker, and we got a lot of experience in the secondary. So, we haven't given up many long plays, any big ones. We gave up a couple to Abbotsford the last game of the year. One time when the guy was trying to strip the ball and didn't get it, and then the guy got away from him. But other than that, we've been pretty consistent.
Again, we're talking to Jerry Sinz, the head football coach at Edgar High School, here on the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. Let's talk about the offense a bit. You mentioned the fact that early on you did lose Jace Applebeck. You got off to a good start, but you still have a couple of runners, and Will Hackle and Maverick Butt have done a nice job splitting the carries and the yardage, and also you've had that ability, a very high percentage and a lot of touchdown passes as well. It looks like you've had the ability to make some pretty big plays, both with the run and with the pass this season.
Yeah, we have Leighton Schuett back, who's a 3-year starter, a wide receiver. A fast kid, a good basketball player. He's about 6'3", 6'4", 175 pounds. Jumps well. He's really matured this year, I think. He goes after the ball a lot harder than maybe he used to. We have a good tight end in Stanke, who also started and played some last year. Once again, good size, 6'1", 6'2". And our backs are good pass receivers too. And Gavin Maurer, who plays some back, plays some slot receiver, is another guy that, can kind of make things happen for us. Tucker Strait has been passing the ball much better from early in the year. He had one stretch where he had about 14 completions in a row. And, of course, he's throwing touchdown passes, as you said, also. So, yeah, we're able to mix it up. If teams try to just really load up on the run, well, then we'll pass. I think against Pittsville, our first playoff game, we had, I think, 3 or 4 touchdown passes in that game because they were really bringing a lot of guys up to the line of scrimmage. So, yeah, our offense has been pretty varied. We run a lot of formations. We move guys around from position to position. A lot of our skill players play 3 or 4 positions in offense, and kids kind of like that. Nobody carries the ball too much, and so on, so they stay fresh that way too.
And that's part of your makeup, right? When you talk about spreading the ball around and not having a big leading rusher and that sort of thing, that's kind of your recipe for success. Obviously, there's definitely games during the year where you don't have to you can rest some of those starters in the second half and later in games, and kind of having that selfless mindset where those kids aren't as worried about their stats other than that W at the end of the game. Is that something that the kids kind of learn over the course of the years as well, that's kind of their role when you're the starters for Edgar football?
Yeah, I think so. We've done it that way forever, including with my own kids when they played, and they would kind of let me know about it that they'd like a few more or whatever. But it's just our best runners get their most carries in our biggest games. In games that aren't overly competitive, they might only get 3-4 carries. But in a game that's a big game, then they'll get 18, 20 carries maybe, depending on how it's going. And that keeps them fresh, keeps them healthy, maybe hungry too. We have a good offensive line coach from DC Everest. Adam Decker played there and then played at Point. We have a pretty good offensive coordinator, Chris Trowicki, who played at St. Norbert's, also played here when he was in high school. So these guys, they do a good job of organizing the offense, and we switch up a lot of things. We switch up blocking things. Like I said, we switch personnel around. We might run 4, 5, 6, 7 formations in a game, seeing which ones we think work the best. So our offense has evolved a lot over the last few years.
And one more question before you get off to do some teaching here this evening. Of course, coming up on Friday night, you're back home against Lourdes Academy. What do you know about Lourdes? What do you expect on Friday night? And what do you need to do to continue your march in the playoffs?
Well, they've got a 6-game winning streak going. They have an outstanding quarterback, a senior, Wade Lindahl. He's like 6 feet, about 195 pounds. He's passed for about 2,100 yards and I think 23 touchdowns, and he's also rushed for about 850 yards and I think 11 touchdowns. So certainly he's going to be a guy to contend with. He throws some excellent passes. He's got a strong arm. They have a top receiver too, who's about 6'1", maybe 175 pounds. I think he's got 40 catches for 650 yards and 9-10 touchdowns. But they actually have 3 receivers that have a lot of receptions. One guy with 35, one guy with 39, one guy with 41. So we're going to have our hands full there. And like I said, if he doesn't find a receiver open, he just takes off running at 195 pounds and good speed. He can do some things there too. So it'll be a fun game. I think our kids are probably looking forward to it. And we've played some good running teams this year, like Abby. We played some good passing teams like Auburndale, and then we played some teams like Stratford that mix it up a lot. So I think we'll be prepared.
Fantastic. Again, we always get a chance to talk to you in early November because we can count on Edgar being there as the season continues and a lot of the other teams fall by the wayside. So we always appreciate you taking a few minutes before your teaching duties this evening. Coach, again, thank you for your time. Best of luck on Friday. Congrats on the season up to this point, and best of luck along the way.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck this week.
Thank you.
Absolutely. That is Jerry Sinz, the head football coach of the Edgar Wildcats. Again, they're 10-1 so far this season. They have a home game against Oshkosh Lourdes coming up on Friday night. And I know that, when you get a chance to last year, now this year when we've had a chance to talk to them, that you have great respect for the success, but also the longevity. And, of course, when you have the longevity, you have to make adjustments. You have to keep learning. You can't just rest on your laurels from winning, a state championship back in the 70s or the 80s. You got to keep on, continuing to grow as a coach, and Jerry Sinz has been able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think his staff turns over underneath him. I mean, he's got some of the guys like Coach Stride, who's been there not as long as him, but for a really long time, played for him and then has been there ever since. But I think they've had some nice young coaches come in too who understand the Edgar way. I've had the great opportunity quite a few years back now, to go to a couple of their playoff practices after we were done at West for the season, and to go watch how they do things, and to watch how Coach Sinz prints off a practice plan. At the top it says practice number 66 or 77, whatever it is, and it's the exact same practice plan from the year before. Now the game plan changes from week to week and all that, but it's a machine. Like, it is, the expectations are the same. The kids know what to expect every day. They know what to expect in camp. They know what to expect in week 1, and they know what to expect in week 11, 12, 13, and possibly 14 when they get there. And what's really cool about it, obviously, the size of the community plays a role in it. The role that football plays in that community plays a huge role in it. But it's not just the kids who are there and the coaches who understand it and have that experience. When you go to their practices, there's 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds running around there, and they're not just there screwing. Well, they do screw around like 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds do, but they're also there learning the tradition and waiting their turn and understanding. So by the time they get there, they too are kind of well-oiled machines and ready to go. It's an incredible program. He's an incredible story. And if I'm not mistaken, did the coach from Springs announce his retirement? Did he not?
That.
I think he did. So
I was
if he steps down, Jerry can finally start making some headway and becoming that number 1. But not only is Jerry one of the greatest coaches in the state of Wisconsin's history, but he is in the national. He's in the top numbers for winnings and state championships nationally. So we are extremely fortunate to have a coach like that in our area, and I hope he keeps doing it for a long time.
And you're right. He actually announced before the season started that this was going to be his 54th and final season. I didn't notice that they had lost in the first round of the playoffs. So I imagine there was some pressure on those kids. I mean, I can understand, announcing before the season that it's going to be your last, but boy, getting to the playoffs, I imagine that was a pressure game, and I think that may have been a lot on those young men's shoulders to try to have him with so much success finish up in 54 seasons. Can you imagine?
No, I cannot. I can't. Sometimes I struggle to think about getting 54 wins, let alone getting 54. And when you look at Coach, we always used to joke at Coach Sinz's 400 and whatever he's at now. I don't even know, because that was a few seasons ago when he got to 400. And I look at my career, and it was a great career just from I love coaching and working with kids, and we had some seasons that were more successful and others. Couldn't even tell you how many wins. It's not that many. Hint, hint.
Had a few.
But when I look at it and think of some of the best seasons I had coaching, I would have to do that for like 40 years to get to where he's at. So just absolutely remarkable. He is a treasure, and I don't know if he's slowing down, but he's still extremely effective in the things they're doing. Like when Coach Stefan Hagen, rest in peace, incredible, another local legend and treasure. I think towards the end of his tenure, they kind of had a bad couple years in a row as far as like classes, and he always used to talk about that. Like you can have one bad class in a row from a numbers, talent, whatever perspective, but if you put 2 back to back, it's hard to win football games. And that was kind of at the tail end of Coach Stefan Hagen's. And then everyone wants to questioning Coach Stefan Hagen and what he's doing. But I think Coach Sinz has been able to avoid that. Obviously, being in a smaller community, you control a lot more of the controllables than you do at a larger school. But great story, and hope they keep rolling.
I got to say, one regret I have is I did not get Coach Steph in here for this show, because I actually knew him. He was a teacher of mine back in the day, and I knew him over the years, and doggone it. Yeah. But we're very lucky every November because we try to plan things out here, and it's like, you can kind of assume at this point, and assumptions are horrible, and I know that coaches would just hate to think that, but the odds have been pretty good that we'd be a chance to talk to Jerry Sinz during the midst of the playoffs, and they of course have a home game against Lourdes coming up on Friday. One of the games we're going to talk about later on that was just really, I thought, surprising and a great effort. Again, coaches probably cringe at that too, but what Abbotsford did when they went to Coleman last week, and we're going to talk to Jacob Knapmiller, the Abbotsford head coach, coming up next. We'll be back in a minute. It is the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction. Again, K5 Construction, a family-owned and operated custom builder in central Wisconsin that stands out from the rest for its commitment to quality and excellence. From design and planning to the final construction, K5 Construction delivers superior results on every project. Back in a minute here on 98.9 WXCO. Local radio thrives when it serves the community. WXCO is no different, and we're looking to add someone to our staff that is well connected around town. Someone who can help our local businesses increase traffic and their visibility among our audience. From connecting clients with high school sports, local news and weather, or the Chad Holmes Show. If you know local business owners, we'd like to get to know you. If you'd like to know more about this opportunity, send me, Chad Holmes, a message at chad.holmes@civicmedia.us. That's chad.holmes@civicmedia.us. And let's set up a time to talk.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Wisconsin. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO. Online at WXCO.FM. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. And again, don't forget, you can always catch it as a podcast by going to civicmedia.us, click on the shows, or just subscribe through Spotify, Google, or Apple Podcasts as well. And we're very lucky to have a second coach guest this week, and wanted to bring back Jacob Knapmiller, the head coach of the Abbotsford Falcons, who had a terrific season in 2024, and they gave a pre-tournament favorite to win a state championship all they could handle and more last Friday night as they fell 7-6 at Coleman. And very happy to welcome back Coach Jacob Knapmiller. And Coach, again, thanks for coming back on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having us, guys. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, absolutely.
Highlight high school sports.
Hey, really appreciate you spending the time with us as well. And last week, and I think a lot of folks, I remember watching on Saturday morning a couple of weeks ago on the statewide TV release show for the brackets, and they were talking about Coleman being a favorite, maybe to make it down to Madison, win a state championship, and you went over there. And in fact, many years ago, I went on a trip to Coleman for a playoff game with Newman Catholic back in the days when they were playing 11-player football, and it's a little bit of a trek. It's not the easiest place to play, but your team came out there and really played toe-to-toe against Coleman last Friday night. Could you maybe talk a little bit about going into that game, what you saw then on Friday night, and how your guys really did perform?
Yeah, you bet. You were excited, obviously, to get a level 2 game coming up after last year's level 1 debacle, being a home seed and getting upset. And like you said, it's a long trip to Coleman, so logistically you're planning, do you take a coach bus? Where do you stop? Get stretched legs, do all that stuff. But their facility is really a top-notch lower division facility. Really take care of their field. Their field is beautiful. It's just all really nice. And you can tell that, they take a lot of pride in their program, and their kids played that way. Their coaching staff handled themselves that way, and they always do. We played them 3 times now in the last, 6 years. I think 2019 was the first time we played them in playoffs, and we were 2-0 against them until this year. So I thought, the game was kind of what we interpreted it to be. We felt like we were 2 similar teams athletically, with 2 similar styles of play. We want to run the football. We'll pass here and there, and I think we passed maybe twice as much as they did. They're that devoted to the run game, but they had a really nice running quarterback and kind of a 2 or 3-headed monster, and we did too. And the first half, I believe we had 2 possessions. With all the run game involved, they drove down the field, and we got a stop early on, and drove back, and they got a stop on 4th down, and we ended up getting another stop deep in our territory, and then there's some miscommunication by our quarterback on a fake punt, and we ended up faking it instead of kicking it, and got trapped deep again. Held our ground again and ended up having like a 6 or 7 minute drive. Had to go for it on 4th down and went up 7-0 at half there on a halfback pass. And you're not feeling real good at that point coming out of halftime, only up 7 against, like you guys said, a really good football team.
Coach, thanks a lot for being on again. I can tell you what, this is our week 11, 12. I'm trying to think when we started or whatever. And I can truly say with all honesty that you were one of my favorite coaches to have on this year, because I learned a lot about your program and your student athletes and how you guys have a unique situation over there in Abbotsford with some kids who maybe don't have as much experience playing football. So first off, congratulations on a great season. I don't know if you were listening before this as well. We had Coach Sinz on, and he had some pretty high praise for you guys as well when we talked about how good their defense is this year, and he kind of referenced back to your game and how you guys were able to get a couple rushing touchdowns against them, which doesn't happen against Edgar very often. So first off, congratulations on that and a great year. But I love looking at your rushing stats each and every week. I'm a run guy and a defensive guy from a coaching standpoint. So obviously you guys rushed the ball well again, but to be able to hold Coleman to just 151 yards rushing, was there a special game plan that you guys brought into that, or did you guys just play solid, tough defense all night?
Yeah, we sat in our base defense. Coach Rao, does a really good job of game planning, gap discipline against run teams. He comes from Illinois where they see a lot of spread teams, so his favorite areas to defense are spread teams. I think just because of the comfortability of it, seeing it a lot, but I think our kids and our talent and the way you would match up on paper, we do better against teams that want to come at you physically. If you were to watch the game film from Friday, you'd have seen our free safety showing up on run a lot even, and we have run fits for him, and his name's Christian Fuentes, he's a junior, he's a special kid, but he was showing up at the line of scrimmage even and making plays, and it took all 11 guys in the box to stop Coleman's run game, which was excellent.
We, as Coach said, we talked to Coach Sinz, and you did face Edgar to wrap up the regular season, and it was quite a battle. It looked like, you had the lead in the second quarter. It was a 5-point game in the third, and then they were able to score a couple of touchdowns late. Were you, despite the loss, and I know that coaches hate the idea of learning in losses, moral victories, and all that, but did that game kind of set you up to play in the postseason, to have a good feel going into the playoffs and be able to feel like, hey, no matter who we face, wherever it may be, that you would have a pretty good chance of winning the football game?
Yeah, so we had that kind of a top-heavy conference, and the bottom was not super strong. But playing Iola early on, and then Auburndale, we really struggled against Auburndale, and that was week 7. And we went into week 8 against Rosholt and only got about a quarter of experience for our varsity kids. So going off of those 2 weeks into an Edgar week 9 for a conference championship was not what you wanted. And so it was really interesting to see how our kids approached that game. And I was impressed with the kind of matter-of-factness that they took it. Like, they know Edgar's good. They don't want it to really affect the way that they approach the game. And we have some talented kids, and I thought we matched up well in certain areas. We against Edgar I thought we had a really good first half. We ended up our center ended up snapping 5 bad snaps in a row, and so we had 5 wasted plays with 2 minutes left in the game, and Edgar got an extra touchdown before half and scored again coming out of half to add those 14 points. And otherwise, I thought our kids felt really good about the way we matched up, the way we played. Other than our defensive, we didn't play well, responsible defense, and that's going into Coleman. That was our one thing. Hey, man, we can move the ball on the best defense in the state. And Edgar, Coleman's pretty good too. We just got to show up as a D and have a game, and we did.
Coach, you referenced earlier the disappointing loss to end last season in Level 1. As you've now had a week to reflect back on this season and the goals you set for this season, obviously wanting to avenge that loss or that level loss, how do you view this season? How do you and the kids view this season? Do you feel like, obviously I think it was a really nice season for you, do you feel like you've taken the next step? Do you feel like you ended in a good spot with a tough loss but a really good game against Coleman, that you've taken the next step and it's kind of a good momentum heading into the off season? Where are you guys at?
There's a lot of things. There's a lot of thoughts out there, Coach. I think we're in a better place at the end of this season than we were at the end of last in terms of the expectations from our players towards themselves. And I think the guys that are leaving us from the program, the seniors, left a really good base for leadership going forward that wasn't maybe there in the last 5 years. And our record reflected some of that. The other thing is, coming off the game on Friday is that I feel like we had 8 dead ball penalties, 7 false starts, I believe it was. And it might have been 8, and 1 holding call. And, we talked a lot about how consistency and discipline in the off season kind of leak into your regular season games. And it for sure shows up when you play good teams in playoffs. And that's, in my opinion, and that was a discussion with our kids, was I think our lack of consistency and discipline at times showed through when the pressure situations hit against good teams. And so those are conversations that need to be had with individuals and with our leadership groups and things like that. But those are the 2 big things we pulled out of Friday.
Again, we're talking to Jacob Knapmiller, the head football coach at Abbotsford High School, here on 98.9 WXCO. Again, the Big High School Sports Show brought to you by K5 Construction. You mentioned some very talented players that are coming back. You mentioned the fact that you have some leaders as seniors that obviously will not be back. As you look ahead, as you start your planning process for the off-season, and then, get the off-season program, and then, of course, getting to the summer, and then finally back at it coming up next August. How do you feel? Do you feel like you got a full cupboard, a partially full cupboard? What is the feeling for the future at Abbotsford?
Well, Coach, we return our whole backfield. Not a kid leaves out of our basically 4 or 5 running back positions that we rotated. We lost a kid that rotated in at a kind of a backup wing position as a senior, but other than that, we returned 3,000 yards of rushers. Roughly, and up front we lose a few really, really good players. The lineman of the year in the Merrillwood, Daniel Davia, was one of the best we've ever had, and you can't just say you're going to replace him. But we have 2 or 3 kids that got a lot of starts this year in the front 5, 1 tight end and another that played some, and then you're replacing a couple spots, which is small school football. You always got to figure out who's going to fit in there, and we have some kids with some talents, and it's going to take a really good off season for them to produce. But I think a lot of where our offense is at is we're super simple, and a lot of kids can plug and play and be successful in it if you got kids that can run the ball behind them. And I think we'll be a really, really talented team next year again. And defensively, it's a similar situation.
Coach, as you look to the offseason as well, and what is the situation at Abbotsford? Will a lot of the guys who are your underclassmen who are coming back next year, who you're excited about, do a lot of those guys play winter and spring sports, or are quite a few of those guys football-only guys, or what does the winter look like for you guys?
Yeah, great question. We really push the 3-sport. We lose a lot of kids. The kids that say they're going to lift and not do a sport don't do it. But we've already started. Next week we'll start a speed session in the mornings, which had been popular up to a few years ago. And I think it's going to come back, which I run, and keep trying to keep kids active if they're not in a sport. But our D coordinator, Garrett Rao, is our head basketball coach, so he pulls some kids in, and one of our assistant coaches, Chance Clement, is now one of our wrestling coaches, and he's going to pull some kids in finally because we co-op wrestling with Colby, and we don't have great numbers normally to that co-op from Abbotsford. But I coach track and field in the spring. I'm the head track coach. So the only reason I started doing it was because of the football program. And my kids were slow, and I've seen programs like Edgar back in when I started, it was Newman, Marathon, Stratford. The guys that you see in the 4x1 teams at state are at Camp Randall in the fall too. So we really push that track and field. And if they're not doing track, they should be doing baseball in the spring. So spring is a priority.
I might ask a question. Maybe, I'm not sure if you even think about this yet, but I know within your conference there's a little change because I know Rosholt is leaving. They're going to 8-player. I think that Assumption's coming back for one more year before they take off. Have you found a game for Rosholt next year? Does that cause some issues where there's again this change? There's a lack of solidity within a conference. Is that something that concerns you or you think about?
Yeah, I think you never want to go without a game, and especially mid-season. And our AD did a great job of getting on it right away, but you're going to see some dominoes fall here and there along the way, and we're just hoping to get it sooner than later mapped out. Like a few years ago, Osseo Fairchild showed up in the late summer and canceled their season or went JV only, and so those guys were all scrambling that late for a game. So we have time. I think just hoping, we'll find something. I don't think our budget is going to fly us anywhere. So we're kind of limited with the state of Wisconsin. But that's high small school football in Wisconsin right now, right? And
right.
It's probably not going to get much better. I think in all seriousness, the best teams are going to stay really good, and I think the lower programs or programs that aren't successful are going to be hurting because a lot of the teams that did not have success went to 8-man or co-op or whatever, and the level of play just keeps rising in those smaller divisions.
Coach, especially towards the end of my coaching career, and even more so now as an athletic director, obviously the goal is to win every game. The goal is to win conference championships and then deep runs in the playoffs and hopefully state championships. But with the X's and O's and the wins and losses aside, one of the things that's really important to me as an athletic director is for our coaches to be able to have their athletes look back over their shoulder when they end their senior season and say, I'm a better young man or woman, but in football's case, a young man today than I was when I started this journey in, we'll say, Abbotsford football. What types of things do you do, and what do you think your seniors would say about who they are today as a result of playing Abbey football for 4 years?
Great question. We actually did a little senior. One of my favorite things of the year was the first time we videotaped them guys, kind of like a senior week profile, and ask them those questions. Reflect on your time as a Falcon. What does it mean to be a Falcon? And you heard a lot of phrases like family and like doing things for the brotherhood, and a lot of things that made a difference in their life without them saying it, and you got them to think about it a little bit through those responses, and that was really neat to hear. And I think it was neat for the high school kids. Don't reflect on anything.
No, they do not.
unless you force them to. And so I think that answered your question in a roundabout way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else, Coach Foster, before we let Coach Knapmiller go?
No, just congratulations on a great season. I've loved watching. I love watching your rushing stats each week, and I love what you guys are doing as a program. And again, congratulations, and I look forward to seeing what you guys bring next year.
Appreciate it, Coach. Thanks.
That is head coach Jacob Knapmiller of the Abbotsford Falcons. Again, just wrapped up a terrific season, going 8-3. Gave Coleman undefeated on the season, everything they could handle, and a 7-6 loss in Level 2. We're going to take a quick time out and then come right back. Again, it's the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction. Again, K5 Construction, a family-owned and operated custom builder in central Wisconsin that stands out from the rest for its commitment to quality and excellence. From design and planning to the final construction, K5 Construction delivers superior results on every project. We will take a 2-minute break and then be right back. It's the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO.
What's your idea of fall fun? Maybe it's hitting the trails on a new ATV. Then it's time to call CCU. That's Clover Belt Credit Union. Or if you're thinking of a UTV for hauling wood or hunting, or maybe just because it would make the tasks around your property so much easier, it's time to call CCU. ATVs, UTVs, utility tractors, and their attachments for care of your property. Whether you need it for fun or to get the job done, Clover Belt Credit Union is here to help with the great rate financing you want. What are you waiting for? Life's too short and winter's too long. Thinking about a motorhome or maybe a snowplow for your ATV or utility tractor? Call CCU for great rate financing. And if you're thinking motorcycle, Clover Belt Credit Union has the financing you need for the bike you want. Call or apply online at ccuwausau.com. Check it out. For vehicle loans, for mortgages, for financing fall fun, call Clover Belt Credit Union. That's CCU. Local lenders lending local money, keeping our community strong.
Hungry for flavor-packed fun?
Dive into Red Robin's sizzling burgers, mouth-watering fries, and endless options.
Or maybe you're craving the perfect slice.
Then it's Donato's Pizza, your passport to pizza perfection.
Order now and treat yourself to an unforgettable taste experience.
Red Robin and Donato's Pizza, 225548 Rib Mountain Drive in Wausau.
Call 715-301-0019 or log on redrobin.com.
Red Robin and Donato's Pizza.
For more than 60 years, Sun Printing has been Central Wisconsin's commercial printer of choice due to their commitment to quality, creative solutions, and dedicated service. Sun Printing's team offers you a wide spectrum of services, whether you need vehicle graphics, offset, digital, large format, graphic design, or mailing. They print everything under the sun. No project is too big or too small, so give Sun Printing a call at 845-4911 or visit them online at sunprinting.com.
Welcome back. Big High School Sports Show brought to you by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. With Jason Foster, I'm Chad Holmes. Again, boy, good discussions with two really good head coaches.
Yeah, like we talked about with Coach Sinz, absolute legend, continuing to do legendary things, and a coach in Coach Knapmiller who's really building what seems to be a really nice program over there in Abbotsford and doing it the right way, like not just doing it with a bunch of great athletes, but building a program, doing the off-season thing, 3 sport athletes, and working on those leadership and culture building things. So, yeah, exciting times. And he kind of touched on a little bit, too. I was going to follow up with him, but we're always limited in time. And we talk about this all the time, CWC large, CWC small. There's kind of the haves and the have-nots. And in their conference, the have-nots are kind of trying to find a way out. But those conferences are top-heavy, right? They each kind of have 4 solid teams and then 4 teams that are, and he's right when he talked about playing Edgar, that when you play a Rochelle the week before you play Edgar, those kids don't get a lot of touches. So
it's like it's like when you're on the treadmill, you turn that speed up. You better start picking it up. And I am curious to see that the Rochelle leaving. It'd be, I think, good for a team like that's expected to be good, to pick up a good team. Depending where it falls in the schedule, of course, I think that has a lot to do with it. But for them, if And just reading between the lines, it sounds like I think they're thinking Madison next year.
Yeah.
I mean, based on what he was saying, that I think for coaches to have that much talent coming back and to be as close, I mean, frankly, they could have made it this year if they would have found a way against Coleman last week. But it does sound like very high expectations going into 2025 at Abbotsford.
It's always exciting, too, when your program is at a point where it's the little things that are making the big difference instead of having to make all the big changes in your program and completely do an overhaul for whatever reason. So, they're in a really good spot and excited to see what they do next year.
Coming up at 7:06, we'll have our student-athlete guest, all-conference performer from Wausau West High School, senior Will McCorison. But let's talk a bit about last week's action. Let's start with Division I and making the Wisconsin Valley Conference proud and Central Wisconsin, big school football, making a little bit of a dent for the first time in a few years. DC Everest, another road win for the Evergreens. Number 7 seeded DC Everest defeated number 3 seeded Madison Memorial in the state capital, 45-24. So Everest 9-2 and Memorial finishes 9-2. Blake Bankston, I tell you, he carries the mail. 40 carries for 303 yards, 4 touchdowns, added a couple of receptions for 21 yards and a touchdown. Very efficient was quarterback Logan George, 11 of 15, 139 yards and 2 touchdowns. Cohen Preby had 5 catches for 56 yards, and Everest was ahead pretty much throughout the course of that football game. And right now that offense, it has become a major headache for some very good teams and defenses.
Yeah. First off, Blake Bankston, I don't know what else can you say? I mean, if they keep this rolling, you have to talk about him having one of the best seasons look at all of the kids who've played at Everest, all the good running backs, quarterbacks, all the things. And what he's doing, what he's done this season and continues to do in the playoffs. I have no idea what the numbers are like all time or in a season for something like that. But he's going to be mentioned with the names of some of the absolute all-stars that they've had at DC Everest. But I think the other thing that's really impressive with what they're doing and really showed against Madison Memorial was, if you rush the ball 40 plus times, 40 just for Blake alone for 303 yards, you are possessing the football. Mm-hmm. And that's how you win football games. Like and their defense, they have a solid defense, but the offense is the strength of their team. So the longer that offense stays on the field, and we knew Madison Memorial had a really good offense, right? Really good throw. They throw the football and it was the early in the game was really important when Memorial kind of had those 3 and outs. Doesn't take much time off the clock. Pushed their defense right back on the field after having to defend Everest on those long ones. I think that really set the tempo for the game, and that's what Everest is doing right now. They are controlling the tempo and the flow and the direction of the football game.
And one of the things that kind of surprised me when just looking at the numbers is when you have 40 rushes, they still score 45 points. Because as you said, that's a time-consuming drive, and the clock keeps rolling. That means that the defense at times gets the other team off the field because you don't score 45 points running the ball that well unless it really does hand-in-hand with offense and defense.
Yeah, and defensively it's maddening if you have somebody who can run the ball like that and you can't stop it. Once that ball starts rolling downhill, it's demoralizing, and I think that's what happened to Madison Memorial last week. They're a good team. They've beat some really quality football teams this year, but I think they got put back on their heels early and never really recovered from it.
And one of the teams that Madison Memorial beat was Waunakee, and we saw Waunakee in level 1 when they knocked off Wausau West, and they showed the defense again. They beat Middleton, the number 4 seed, 17-0, and Waunakee now 10-1, and they ran the football. And Sullivan Skadden had 31 rushes, 123 yards, and a touchdown. Vance Johnson, again, the quarterback, whose numbers for the season have been stellar. He came into the playoffs hitting on 71% of his passes. Wausau West did a nice job picking off a couple of passes and I think slowing down their pass game. And he had a few struggles again last week, 9 of 19, 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. Middleton did not get the offense going, just 207 yards, 1.7 yards per rush, and that tells me that That's one of the major matchups will be the DC Everest run game against the run defense for Waunakee. But you saw Waunakee. You've seen DC Everest. I think we'll talk more about it coming up later in the program. But Waunakee, the thing that kind of talk about this game, defensively they were good against Wausau West, but I was a little surprised to see a shutout against Middleton. Obviously, a very impressive performance.
Yeah, I think that is a very impressive performance. I can't speak exactly to how good Middleton is or isn't. Seven wins, 6-win regular season makes them a pretty good football team. Maybe not great, but I think the thing that stuck out a little bit more to
somehow
me,
they're the number 4 seed when Everest was number 7.
Yeah, we won't get into that today. Everest just needs to keep on rolling so we get some respect next year. But I think the thing that stuck out to me a little bit is that Waunakee only scored 17 points like that. This is a 1 seed we're talking about here, a team that conference champion, 1 seed, and they just haven't seemed to be able to get their offense rolling in the postseason. And I think that was one of the better games that the West defense played during their 10-game season this year. And I think that, Everest has got to feel pretty good about what they're doing and maybe what this matchup means for them.
And I do think Middleton is going into the season. I think we're expected maybe to win the Big 8. If not win it, be right there. They had a tough loss against Verona, who ended up being a number 1 seed on the other side, but they're also out. They lost by 3 to Madison Memorial, and they played Bayport in the opener, and they had a good game against them. So I do think that is a solid win. But also, as you said, I agree with you 100% about Waunakee when it comes to because they were in the teens offensively against West, because one of their touchdowns was a interception return. So again, you can't beat Everest unless you score points. And I think that's
you got to score points and you got to stop the run. So it'll be very interesting. It's kind of like when Coach Sinz was rattling off stats like he does such a great job of when he was talking about Lords a little bit and what their quarterback's been able to do and how many receivers they have, all that. But those are all good things, and you don't take anything away from a quality opponent. Yeah. But who did they play and who did they get those stats against? They probably haven't played a lot of Edgars, and I'm not sure. It's one of my favorite parts about this postseason so far from the Division I level is that our area schools got to go play somebody different. We're not playing the Fox Valley. We're not playing the Big River, the BRCC. No, right? No.
The
FRCC. Holy cow, I'm getting my rivers mixed up there. But it's been kind of interesting. For years it's been, how does the Valley stack up against the Fox Valley? The last couple of years it's kind of been, how do we stack up against the Big Rivers, because now we're in a conference with them. So it's kind of been nice to go down there and maybe the style of football we play here does match up a little bit better with how things play down in Madison. Yeah. And so it'll be interesting moving forward to see how these groupings get paired up in the future.
We have our top of the hour break in 2 minutes, but elsewhere in Division I, anything else jump out? You had Marquette rolling over De Pere 52-23. Bayport beat Sheboygan North, a lower seed who had won the first level 1 game 61-12. Muskego beat a number 1 seed Franklin 42-14. Neenah roughed up Kimberly at Kimberly by a score of 34-14. As I said, Verona, a number 1 seed from the Big 8. They lost to Arrowhead 22-21. Mukwonago 21, Racine Case 14. Anything in Division I jump out at you?
Yeah, I think good for Bayport for getting to beat up on Sheboygan North. That's a good draw for them.
They had a good 2-week draw.
I think that one of the interesting things to me, if I'm not mistaken, are Marquette and Everest on the same side. I'm interested to see who this Marquette team is or isn't, because they kind of ebb and flow. They won a state championship not too long ago,
last year.
But they're also a team that sometimes is the beneficiary of not having a very tough schedule as well. So it'll be interesting moving forward to see those, and kind of nice to see those big names in there, right? Muskego, Arrowhead, Mukwonago, those are all really nice programs, and it'll be nice to see if Everest can get.
You're listening to Civic Media. Stay up to date on the latest news and information for your local community and Wisconsin by signing up for our free email newsletter. Visit civicmedia.us/email to get started.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO. Online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app with former Wausau West head football coach Jason Foster. I'm Chad Holmes, and we're very happy to welcome in our student-athlete guest for this week. Also from Wausau West, senior Will McCorison. Will, thank you for coming on in.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'll get you a little more tight against that microphone, or also have he also adjusted as well, so very good. But Will, number one, congrats on another terrific football season. But you're such a busy guy, you go right into the winter sports season as well. But let's talk about football first of all. You were named again all conference offensive lineman. You played offensive lineman, you played some defensive lineman. What was this season like? Because it was watching your team throughout the season. Generally, it's a bit of a roller coaster this season. As you look back on it, how do you feel like the season went for you and for your team?
I'm really happy with the season this year. You know, we started off a little slow, but we definitely improved a lot. By the end of the season, we were 100 times better than when we started off at, I feel like. And honestly, I don't know if I can ask much more than that from the team. So I'm happy with the guys. I feel like I also improved same way, got a lot better since the beginning of the season. So I'm happy with it.
So during your time at Wausau West on the offensive line, you've played with some pretty accomplished and established offensive linemen who've gone on to play at pretty high level of football. Watching those guys play ahead of you the last couple of years and coming into your senior year, what was the experience? What did you learn from those guys, and what did you bring into this year, knowing that now it was your turn to be the guy, the man, the returning first-team all-conference guy with who's getting the next level looks?
Yeah, so I remember sophomore year watching those guys. I mean, it was hard to believe like that'd be me someday. And honestly, just watch them, their physicality. I knew that's what my goal was by the time I reached my senior year. So just working in the off season, and then I feel like wrestling definitely helped with my physicality. So just bringing the physicality to the team this year, I feel like was one of my best attributes, I'd say, that I learned from those guys.
At the banquet on Sunday, the coach was talking about when you got your first starting opportunity as a sophomore, coming on the bus with a couple of your senior teammates or older teammates at the time, but said basically you got in there and he couldn't get you out of there. Could you talk a little bit about your progress as a football player from as a sophomore up to this year? Now, obviously having back-to-back all-conference performances and all that, but what's the biggest difference for you as a player from when you first hit the field as a varsity player and the last time you played just a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, for sure. So my first game was against Marshfield. I found out I was starting kind of just on the bus ride over. So it was a little nerve-wracking at first. But then when I got out there, you know, the nervous kind of left me after the first couple hits. I felt pretty confident. You know, I'd still have to ask. I'd look over to Brant almost every play, ask what I needed to do. And he'd tell me, and I just did it. And he definitely helped a lot, build my confidence for sure. And then as the years progressed, just becoming more confident, knowing what I'm doing myself, so I can just go out there and focus on dominating guys.
And did you find like Brant was doing that for you when you were a sophomore? And probably, I mean, last year was kind of a transition year from being the new guy to kind of being in the role of being one of the better linemen. And then this year when you were kind of the top guy, did you find yourself kind of serving in that mentor role for either younger guys who are on the line with you or maybe some younger guys who are still JV or freshman players?
Yeah, for sure. I help guys out. Guys ask me questions all the time. And since sophomore year, I've played every single position on the offensive line. So I kind of know what each person's supposed to do. So I feel like I'm a good guy to come ask questions to if my teammates don't understand or need help doing what they're supposed to do.
In addition to like knowing the plays and the X's, like where you're supposed to align, what your first step is, and all of those things, what else do you find important about offensive line play that you want to instill in your teammates and those younger guys? Like aside from just the basic steps and skills and responsibilities, what really makes a really good high school offensive lineman?
Yeah, for sure. Mental toughness is one of the big things. You know, you get knocked down a lot, and if you're hanging your head and you don't recover from it, you're going to get beat up the whole game. So it's important, like, you make a bad play, you get put in your butt, you got to get back up and forget about it, focus on the next play. Coach always says the most important play is the next play. So just keeping that mentality and keeping the energy and motivation up on the line is very important to keep us moving forward, scoring points.
What is it like changing the positions? I was going to ask you about that because, when the season started, I'm asking Coach about starting lineups, and I'm assuming you're going to be probably a tackle, and I said no, Will's going to be playing center here, and I thought, oh, interesting. Obviously, being moved around, it shows I think a lot of faith. He wants to put you in the best possible position to help the team out. How did that go about? Was it something that you were all for? Did you think, maybe I didn't want to change? What was your mindset about changing and playing all the positions over the last 3 years?
Yeah, sophomore year I played guard, and then there was some guys couldn't play, so I'd moved to tackle. And honestly, I was a little nervous, but I was all for it. I love trying out all the different positions. And I have some favorites, some I don't like as much, but at the end of the day, it's pretty much all the same job, and you get to dominate guys up front.
And this year you played a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball as well. Tell me that transition. A, how hard is it doing both in a game like that, playing against the size of guys that you play in Division I football all the time? And B, what's the different – do you have to take a different mindset to the other side of the ball, or is it pretty similar?
Yeah, there's similarities and differences for sure. D-line, it was – like at first couple games when your conditioning wasn't built, it was definitely a struggle. And then throughout the season, as my conditioning built up more and more, I was able to play a lot more defense too. So I feel like I helped the team a lot on defense this year. So I'm happy. I just wanted to do whatever I could to help the team and help us win some games.
Let me ask you about Coach Nowinski. Because whenever I practice, the guy is a very intense offensive line coach. He asks a lot of you guys. Can you talk about the relationship with Coach and what you've learned from him over the last number of years?
Oh, yeah, he's definitely one of my favorite coaches. He's a great dude. He is intense, but it's all because he cares about us and he wants us to be better. So I've been with him for most of my high school career, and he's definitely helped me become the player I am today because without him pushing us every day in practice, I feel like I definitely wouldn't be where I am now. And because of that, I have some college looks, so I'm able to play at the next level, which is really exciting for me. I want to thank him because
I used to tell recruiters, because one of the spots we've had kids recruited at, especially most recently, has been in that offensive line. And one of the things that's been great when I talk to recruiters who come in and coaches when I was still the head coach was to be able to tell them, A, how good our offensive line coach is, and that he kind of coaches you guys like you're going to get coached in college. Not exactly the same, because there are certain things you can and can't say and do in high school, but Coach Nowinski's pretty intense and pushes you guys pretty hard. So you are very, very much college ready if that's what you decide to do at the next level.
Yeah, for sure.
Again, we're talking to Will McCorison from Wausau West, senior for the Warriors, a multi-sport athlete here on the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction. You're going into wrestling now, and you've been a state competitor on the mats as well. Before we delve into maybe expectations for this year, what you do on the mats and what you do at the line of scrimmage, are you able to use some of the same, skills, but is there a connection between being a good wrestler and being a good lineman?
I think there totally is. Like, a lot of the linemen that are younger than me, I'm trying to get them out for wrestling because I feel like since when I started wrestling, it's definitely helped me become a good lineman. Like, feeling like the pressure the D-line's giving you, feeling the pressure your opponent's giving you in a wrestling match is very similar. One of my favorite moves is, like, if a guy's pushing into me too hard, I just chop his hands down and push him down. And I feel like wrestling taught me that a lot. And I've been doing that a lot this year, which has been fun. And also just like the physicality and the mental toughness, like I was talking about before, a lot of that comes from wrestling, being in that one-on-one battle.
You are, we've talked a little bit about wrestling now, but you are a very unique high school athlete at a school like Wausau West, where 1,500 plus kids. So unlike some schools down the road, we talked with Coach Sinz from Edgar earlier tonight. So when you come from a school the size of Edgar, everyone, they don't have to, but if they're going to be successful, everyone has to play 2, if not 3 sports. At Wausau West, that's not necessarily the case. So we see fewer and fewer kids who are playing 3 sports. Not only do you do that, but you've been to you've been extremely successful, right? Multi-year all-conference and all-region player in football. You've made it to state in wrestling, and you've also made it to state in track. Tell me about how you kind of touched on the wrestling and football thing, but just generally speaking, as a student athlete, how has that shaped you in not only as an athlete, but in all of your high school experience? Like, what role and how important is it for you to be a three-sport athlete, but also to be a very successful one?
Yeah, I feel like three sports is important because, I feel like kids, if they're focused on one sport their whole life, then they get kind of like burnt out of it, and I feel like a lot of guys end up quitting if that happens. So three sports I think is healthy, and just like all the sports I do, kind of like they all relate in certain ways, like the explosiveness from track, the shot put, explosiveness on the football field, like the hand fighting, leverage, and wrestling. It all kind of relates and helps me. Like the student athlete part too, like it's hard balancing like school with three sports, but it's important to find time. You have to make sacrifices, but at the end of the day, school comes first, so you have to make sure you're excelling in the classroom if you ever want to be able to have a chance to excel in your athletics.
And how has it also benefited you to be coached at that high level by three different coaches with three very different coachings? It's more than three coaches, right? Because in football you have multiple coaches. In wrestling, we were talking before we got on that not only do you have a head coach and Coach Favory, but because of your size and strength, you end up wrestling with your assistant coaches quite a bit. So how has that also developed you as both a young man and a student athlete, having exposure to different coaches with different styles?
Yeah, definitely like opens up like I see a lot of different coaching styles, and it kind of like helps me being a captain on my wrestling and football team. I feel like seeing all the different ways coaches coach, I'm able to kind of like merge them all together and become the best captain I can. So seeing all those different like leadership styles, coaching styles, I feel like has definitely benefited me.
And when you talk about student athletes and I think, at the banquet again Sunday night, Coach was talking about a lot of your qualities, and I think the one that kind of stood out the most was a 4.0 student. And again, when you're a multi-sport athlete, you have to be able to use your time well, to be able to be at the level that you obviously want to be at on the football field or on the wrestling mat and then in track and field, and yet to still be at that high level academically. What have you learned in terms of time management, in terms of being able to be successful both as a student and as an athlete? Is there anything or a little advice you can share that has allowed you to be that successful in both areas?
Yeah, I think just using your time wisely, like during your off time at school, making sure you're getting your homework done. Because then if you don't, like we had guys that weren't able to play first couple games of football because they talk with their friends at school instead of getting their homework done. So motivating guys to do that is important so we're at full strength when it comes to our athletics.
Just talking with the buddies. I like that. That's very good.
That was a very nice way of putting it, actually, and I appreciate that you didn't say any names, too. That was fantastic. One other thing, and just one last thing touching on being the three-sport athlete, is in both wrestling and track, you're part of a team, but in those, you're an individual, right? Like when you go on the mat, it's one-on-one, obviously scoring points for your team, but then in the shot and disc too, like I know you and Tish were close last year and kind of threw together and kind of grew together in that regard. Football's the one where all five guys on the line kind of have to be working together in order to have success, along with the quarterback and running back, and the receivers have to block and all that. Tell me a little bit about your relationship with the rest of the offensive line and what kind of unit you guys had this year as far as communication and bonding together. How was that this year?
Yeah, so we have our O-line group chat, so we're talking a lot on that, watching film and like sending different like things that we're seeing to each other. So everyone knows we're doing like little like lineman dinners. After every win, Coach Nowinski makes us these things called bologna crunchers. It's a secret what they are exactly, but it's like a food that's pretty good. So we spend time with him those after wins on Mondays, so those are always fun. On just like little activities like that with the line, keeping us together and keeping us as one unit is definitely important.
What's your favorite class?
I always like the business classes. I'm planning on going into business in college because of how much I've enjoyed the classes. They're very like project based, so they're a lot of fun.
And you are super busy with being in 3 sports and being a 4.0. When you do find a little bit of free time, either in between seasons or maybe on a weekend every once in a while, what do you like to do when you're not doing your sport or schoolwork?
I like to do a lot of outdoor things like hunting and fishing. So I've done a lot of hunting this fall so far. We have a fishing boat, so I like to go out fishing with my dad and brother and my grandpa. Things like being outside, boating, hanging out with friends outside. Just all things like that. Being outside is a lot of fun to me.
Is there a favorite rival? Is there whether it be football or wrestling or track, but is there a favorite rival that you've had in your high school career?
Sophomore year, when I played, my last JV game was the Wausau East game. And that one was like the last log game, so that had some history behind it, and that made it a much bigger competition than what it usually is, I feel like. So that game was a lot of fun, and we played pretty well that game, and I was happy. It was a lot of fun.
And individually, because you were on the mats, you faced some really tough competition, and you faced tough competition when you're on the offensive line. Is there been a player in both football or wrestling that has been a real fun battle for you personally?
Yeah, I feel like me and Oscar from Everest were always head-to-head in a lot of our sports, so that's always a fun matchup when it comes to football and wrestling. And, like, we see each other because same town. We hang out sometimes. So it's just like we're friends. But then when it comes to the sports, got to not think that way.
One of my favorite things in the springtime during track is to watch the shot and disc and watch all the offensive linemen hanging out together from guys who weren't maybe together since the fall when they were competing against each other, standing around waiting their turn to throw a shot and disc and talk about what's been going on in life since then.
Let me ask you about the recruiting aspect, because it's always interesting because, as a young person to have the ability to, have folks contact you to say, hey, we'd like you to come to our school and participate. What's that been like? How has that been where you hear from different colleges and coaches and the like? Is it exciting? Is it nervous at times? What's that like, the recruiting process as you make that decision on where you're going next?
It's a lot of fun. It's exciting because, coaches telling you they want you to come play for them. It feels good knowing that you're that good and coaches want you to come play for their school and help them win games. So it's just like, it's kind of like a boost in your mentality, and it's definitely exciting. And I'm excited to see where I'm going to end up next year. I'm looking forward to it. You kind of had a little bit of a leg up in that process, not necessarily by who's recruiting you, but you have a family member who played pretty high-level football as well. Has that been a benefit that your dad kind of went through that process? And so maybe, obviously things have changed since your dad went to school, but kind of having him who's gone through that process before, did that help in kind of knowing what to expect and kind of knowing that was something you wanted to jump into?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely changed a lot, but with all of his connections he's made throughout college football, he knows a lot of the coaches. A lot of his teammates are coaches now, so he's been able to reach out to those guys for me, share my film and stuff. And also my uncle played college football too, so a lot of his buddies are coaches and they've been talking to me too. So kind of got two good resources there that definitely helped me out.
Where did your dad and uncle go to school?
My dad was at Northern Iowa, and then he transferred to Wisconsin and played. And then my uncle was an All-American at St. Cloud, which they no longer have a football team.
Yeah. Were you gonna ask? Okay, I thought you were. And I guess you have not made a decision yet on where you're going. What are the factors that you're using to try to make that decision at this point?
One of the big ones is coaching staff for sure. I need to have a coaching staff that supports you off the field as well, and will help you grow to be be a good man in society. Because football, it's 4 or 5 years, and then you have the rest of your life. So I feel like the rest of your life is a little more important than football. So that's a big thing, and also just being at a place that I'll enjoy. I'll have a good time, not somewhere I'll be bored out of my gourd or have nothing to do. And team atmosphere too. Big if your team a good close team is definitely something I look forward to, because if teams not great, they're separated. feel like I wouldn't have a good time playing football. So those are my big three. Probably.
And it's a very interesting time for stuff like that right now with NIL and all those things. Like, I think that kind of drives and motivates it. So probably finding a good fit is probably more important than it's ever been. So one of the things I always wanted as a head coach, and even now probably more so as athletic director for everybody, is you've obviously gotten a lot bigger, a lot stronger, faster, better blocker, wrestler, thrower, all those things over the course of 4 years. How have you grown as a young man and as a person? How are you different now than you were when you came to Wausau West as a freshman?
Yeah, I feel like through all my sports and coaching, just like the importance of hard work for sure is definitely one thing that stands out. Because, middle school, like, it's all relaxed, like nothing really matters. Then you get to high school, grades matter, sports are a little bit bigger of a deal, coaches are on you more. Just the importance of like working hard, giving 100% effort is probably one big thing.
Anything else for Will before our final question?
No, it's been awesome watching you grow. I'm super excited that we get 2 more seasons with you, and best of luck this winter and spring.
Thank you.
All right, then, Will, our final question, it kind of, I think, builds on what the coach was saying, but based on your experiences, obviously been involved in a lot of sports, to be able to, learn and maybe learn from a mistake or two. For a younger person just maybe entering Wausau West, whether at the freshman or sophomore level, joining one of your programs, if you were to give a piece of advice based on what you've learned over the last number of years, what would that piece of advice be for someone just starting their process?
Can I interrupt there
Yes.
1 second before he answers that question? This is a very unique situation in that he has a brother who will be a freshman and a group of friends next year. So we can even formalize that question. What advice would you give to John and his friends as they get ready to head into their high school journey?
Yeah, I feel like just don't make it bigger than it is. Honestly, it's not a super crazy jump. It's not like your whole world's going to change. So just relax a little bit. Don't worry about it too much. That's just going to make it more nerve-wracking, I feel like. And also just like making, like always like be on good terms with teachers, sitting in the front row, doing things to make sure teachers are like you. And then also like making sure you're good with all your peers and classmates to make schools more fun when you get along with everyone for sure.
Fantastic. And congrats on your football journey. Best of luck as you try to get to the Kohl Center in the wintertime and then try to get to Herring Stadium in the spring as well. So, Will McCorison, thank you for your time, and thanks again for stopping on by.
Yeah, thank you.
We're going to take a quick time out and then come back, take a look again at what's going on in the football playoffs, look ahead to this week's action as well. Again, the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction. K5 Construction is a family-owned and operated custom builder in central Wisconsin that stands out from the rest for its commitment to quality and excellence. From design and planning to the final construction, K5 Construction delivers superior results on every project. Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO.
State champions in cross country, plus a wild weekend of football playoff action. I'm Travis Wilson, and this is a WisSports.net Minute brought to you by Just a Game Fieldhouse in Wisconsin Dells. More high school sports news after this. You may have heard of Just a Game Fieldhouse in Wisconsin Dells, one of the country's premier destinations for youth sports and events, but did you know that Just a Game does so much more? Just a Game also delivers end-to-end apparel, equipment, and event solutions. With their state-of-the-art screen printing and embroidery facility, they can help with branding for your team and business items, including uniforms, apparel, and more. Just a Game also offers digital services that include a cashless digital platform and event live streaming. Just a Game has also added a second brand new facility in Reedsburg. Find more information at justagame.com. The WIAA State Cross Country Championships were held over the weekend, with a new record and a 3-time state champion highlighting the action. Junior Emerson Drobach of Deerfield, Cambridge won the individual girls title in Division II, doing so in an all-divisions record time for the 5-kilometer length of 17 minutes 38 seconds. Onalaska's Manny Putz won the boys D1 crown for a third consecutive season, becoming just the 7th boys athlete to do so. Level 2 of the high school football playoffs featured the usual array of upsets, including chaos in Division 1. Franklin spent much of the year as the number 1 team in D1, but the Sabres were shocked by Muskego, who qualified with a sub-500 conference record. It wasn't just a win, it was a running clock, as Muskego dominated 42-14. Elsewhere in the Classic 8, number 4 Arrowhead went on the road and knocked off top-seeded and previously undefeated Verona 22-21. Nina pulled off the rare feat of defeating Kimberly twice in the same season as the Rockets won 34-14 over the Papermakers. Several Cinderella runs continued, including 7th-seeded DC Everest, who took down Madison Memorial 45-24. The biggest Cinderella of last week keeps dancing, as 8th-seeded Belleville beat Marshall 21-7. An incredible 8 games were decided by a single point in Level 2. This has been a WisSports.net Minute. Check us out online at WisSports.net.
Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM. We've changed the address of our website, so get used to it, folks. But if you go to bullfallsradio.com, you'll still get there. They'll get you there. So, but practice WXCO.FM, real simple. Also, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. With Jason Foster, I'm Chad Holmes, and what a terrific young man. I just really enjoyed talking to Will.
Yeah, we look at our guests throughout the course of the year, and obviously we didn't have any bad ones. They all kind of knocked it out of the park, and Will kind of followed right along with that. He's a super young man and very accomplished, both as a student and an athlete. But to make it to state in both wrestling as an individual and in track as an individual, and just had an outstanding career, and the sky's kind of the limit. Yeah. I do not know what he's doing next year. He hasn't even completely shared that with me. So very much looking forward to hearing where his journey takes him next.
And again, it just shows when somebody is, I think he must be mature beyond his years to be able to do everything that he does and have a 4.0 grade point average. Again, it's wonderful to be able to share that as well, because these young people, there's a lot asked of them. It's not easy. I never sniffed 4.0, and I didn't have everything that he had on his plate when I was going to school. But fantastic.
Yeah. The other thing, too, and I don't say this to him, maybe he's listening on the way home, maybe he's not, Mom and Dad are, but I look at Will, too, and I think back to, I had an outstanding football player when I was up at Northland Pines. His name was Austin Ramish, and I was very fortunate to go on some recruiting visits. He ended up playing for the Badgers, having an outstanding career. But when we went on a recruiting trip with the Badgers, Brett Bielema was the head coach. Ironically, from the time they offered him to the time he started playing, Bielema had left, and it was Coach Anderson the next year. But one of the things I very clearly remember this, and I think about this when I look at Will, is Austin was probably the most physically developed high school player I've ever been around, both talent-wise and just genetics and physically. And Brett Bielema grabbed him by the face his junior year and said, "And you just have a baby face. You haven't even." And he was the biggest, strongest high school kid I've ever seen in my life. So to watch somebody grab him and say that he had a baby face and how much growing he had to do was very eye-opening to me. But that, I look at Will in the same way. He is a great, big, strong kid who's done a lot of things really well. But if you look close, Will's still got a baby face, and I think that's very good for Will. I think that his body is going to continue to physically develop, and when he's all done growing and kind of hits that weight room at the collegiate level, he's going to be a great, big, strong kid, and I'm excited to see that growth moving forward as well.
Absolutely. Well, we continuing to go through the action for our area teams last week. No teams remaining in Division 2, but in Division 3 from the Great Northern, Medford. They defeat Fox Valley Lutheran 42-22. Fox Valley Lutheran, like against East, jumped out to an early lead, but not quite as big. It was only a 7-0 lead, but then 36 straight Medford points until a couple of late Fox Valley Lutheran scores in the fourth quarter. Paxton Rothmeyer, between Bankston and Rothmeyer, they've been battling with these 300-yard rushing games and all these rushes, and Rothmeyer had 42 carries for 305 yards and 5 touchdowns. Again, Medford wasn't asked to throw a lot. They didn't need to throw a lot, but they did okay. 3 of 3, 59 yards and a score from Parker Listener. But between Bankston and Rothmeyer, I mean, I have not seen so many 300-yard rushing games in this area in a long time.
Yeah, I haven't kept up. You probably have it written down somewhere, but how many yards these guys are up to on the season now? I mean, they've got to be approaching over 1,500 to 2,000 yards, some of these guys. So, I mean, outstanding. And great for Medford to be heading to level 3, right? Like a good seed for them, a really nice win against what people obviously look at and say a tough private school. We like to talk about that all the time. So really good win for them. And if I'm not mistaken, they have Logan next. Is that
yes? They do.
That accurate? And
yes,
so that'll be a really nice test for them too. And Logan is having a really nice season, obviously, but not a school with a ton of football tradition or deep playoff runs. So I think that's a game that should be a really good one.
And I think, Logan beat Onalaska 42-6, but I imagine that Medford doesn't mind that.
No.
You don't want to play Onalaska. For whatever reason, Onalaska has been a thorn in the side of Medford for a number of years. And
including earlier this year.
And including earlier this year. So you're exactly right. And by the way, Rothmeyer has amazing number of yards. 2,440. 2,440 yards.
Unbelievable.
I mean, if they keep going, he's going to get to 3,000 yards. I mean, if they are able to continue to win for the next couple of weeks, the way he's going, 200 to 300 every week, a 3,000-yard season, which is insane.
As much as Medford rushes the ball all the time for years and years and years, that's got to be close to a single-season rushing record for them, I would have to think.
And I would think, I don't know what the state record is, but I can't imagine it's that much more than that. I mean,
I remember that Austin Ramish, who I just referenced earlier, he had 2,200 yards his junior year, and he was one of the leading rushers. And we only made it to level 1 of the playoffs that year, and he had 2,200 yards. So, yeah, pretty remarkable, and great for both of these guys. I mean, everyone always talks about the spread offense and throwing the ball, and we talk a lot about too that you have to have a balance. But when you watch these state championship games in 3 weeks, you are going to see 14 teams who run the football. Like there's going to be some completed passes and there's going to be some good athletes playing quarterback, but nobody's going to win a state championship in the state of Wisconsin without being able to very effectively run the football. And obviously Medford Medford and Everest are teams who are very successful at that.
Division 4, no teams remaining from our area, but then Division 5, Stratford and Amherst again. And Amherst battled them twice this year, late in the regular season, and again here in the postseason. It was 7-7 at halftime, but Stratford outscores Amherst 21-0 in the second half, stays undefeated, winning 28-7. Jack Tubbs did more damage on the ground this week than he did through the air. He had 9 rushes, 139 yards, and 2 touchdowns, 7 of 12, 111 yards through the air. Alec Chappell, big night, 19 tackles for Stratford. Caleb Wrench had 12 tackles as well. But it was a challenge, and again, I think for Stratford, it's a good game. It's you don't want too much of a good thing. You like enough challenge to keep them all engaged and give them a little pressure, but not so close where you might lose the football game. But and Amherst did battle them twice this year.
Yeah, and this is a Amherst team with obviously as good of a pedigree as Stratford has. So they know how to win state championships. They know how to play really good teams in the playoffs. Obviously, there's now quite a bit of history between the two of these teams, both in the regular season and in the playoffs. So this was a great matchup and a really good win for Stratford. And this is how it's going to be moving forward, right? Mm-hmm. D5 from D6, and Tubbs isn't going to throw for 200 yards on 12 of 14, whatever it is every week. So it's nice to see them have a little bit more human type stats in a game, and very successfully win it. I mean, balanced run, pass, moving the football against a team that's very familiar with them. So all really good things for Stratford as they continue to roll forward.
Another reason why these teams, like you said, all 14 teams at Camp Randall will be running the ball, because at this time of the year, it's harder to throw because of the weather. That's a factor. And last week it was cooler. I mean, it still was not a bad night to play football, but again, if you can't run the football, and weather is always going to be a factor, one way or the other, as you get deeper into the playoffs.
Yeah, Coach Sinz referenced it earlier. It gets dark so darn early, I think, is what he said. And I think when you look at Rothmeyer and Bankston rushing for 40 and 40-plus attempts per game, normally you'd think, I mean, those kids come out of, people have no idea what that does to your body. Like, those kids wake up Saturday morning and they feel like they've been in a championship fight. I mean, the body blows and all that. So one of the things about practice this time of year is it's different than it is during the regular season. So there is much more recovery time during the week. These guys are probably not even going fully padded 3 days a week anymore.
Next for Stratford will be Lake Country Lutheran, who beat Winnebago Lutheran 35-0. Also in D5, boy, number 1 seed St. Croix Falls, number 4 seed Wittenberg-Burnhamwood, and St. Croix Falls edges Whitburn 21-20. Whitburn had a 14-13 lead after 3. St. Croix Falls scored a touchdown and a 2-point conversion to lead 21-14. Whitburn scored late. I don't know whether they went for the 1 or the 2, but either way, they did not make it. I would assume they probably went for the W late.
I think I watched it on the news, like the highlight from it. I think they went for 2. Actually, I think they got it. They went for 2 and got it, and there was a penalty.
Oh, geez.
And so they had to go for it again from 5 yards back and did not get it.
St. Croix Falls stays perfect. Whitburn finishes 8-3. Bryson Schmid, 22 rushes, 127 yards. The passing number is not great, 3 of 11, but 98 yards, a couple of touchdowns and a pick. And one thing I noticed, because I watched the huddle highlights, you can get the huddle highlights from St. Croix Falls. There was snow on the ground in that game.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of
there
was a lot of snow on the ground, in fact, and it looked like in watching some of the highlights, there were a couple of times Whitburn had the ball pretty deep in St. Croix Falls territory as well, not able to finish drives. So again, not seeing the whole game, but seeing some of the highlights, it looked like they got the 20 points, and they also had chances for more. And they were a team that was playing better and better as the season went on. And again, I think similar to what we're going to talk about with Abbotsford. You say, boy, it's great to go to a number 1 seed, give them all they had, but you got to win sometimes too, where it feels like they may have been the better team, at least judging from what I was watching.
Right, and when you took the words right out of my mouth, because in my mind I was comparing them to Abbotsford. When you look at the number of games we've talked about in the conferences over the course of these 10 to 12 weeks.
It's week number 12 for us.
This year. These are 2 teams that stick out to me in Wittenberg-Burnhamwood and Abbotsford, in teams that probably weren't going to contend for a state championship, but I would say many might even say overachieved a little bit, or maybe they took that. We always talk about a program taking the next step. These are 2 teams that stick out to me as programs that took the next step this year. And from a Wittenberg standpoint, I think on a team that was less talented than teams that they've had the last couple of years. Obviously, Schmid really had some really nice players, not down on those guys, but they've lost some very talented kids the last 2 years. So for them to come and have a season like this, I think that's the very, very positive season for the Chargers.
D6, we talked with Coach Knapmiller of Abbotsford earlier. It was Coleman, undefeated, edging Abbotsford 7-6. As we heard, it was a 24-yard halfback option touchdown pass from Christian Fuentes to Andrew Broadhagen, gave Abbotsford a 6-0 lead at halftime. Coleman then took the third quarter kickoff and had basically their one drive of the game. I mean, they had an 8-minute touchdown drive plus the PAT that proved to be the difference. Abbotsford on the night. Again, we hear about Coleman all the time, putting up just 300, 400, 500 yards rushing, and Abbotsford outgained Coleman 260 to 163, held the Cougars' run game that averages about 300 yards per game to just 151. Irvin Aguilera, another player that will be back for Abbotsford, had 18 rushes, 88 yards. Fuentes, 17 rushes, 83 yards. We didn't really go all the way there, but even talking to the coach, I think he mentioned this himself, some of the pre-snap penalties and the such, where you're very proud of your group, but boy, I bet you there was a sleepless night or 2 during the weekend for a lot of folks with Abby, because to go over there and play that well and not to be able to finish it had to have been disappointing.
Well, it'll be really interesting to see where Coleman ends up, because the farther they go, the more sleepless nights Coach Knapmiller is going to have, because this certainly feels like one that they should have had and would have kind of put another stamp on this season. Like you take a step or do you take 2 steps forward? And I think they were right there. And when he what did Coach say? 7 pre-snap penalties. Kind of sounds like the Packers last Sunday. But yeah, those are tough in games like that, and against a very quality 11-0 team, now 11-0. In Coleman. So, yeah, great effort by Abby. Like we said when Coach Knapmiller was on, great season for them. But definitely there will be some coulda, woulda, shouldas this offseason with this game.
And another Merowith / CWC small school that saw their season end in that very same bracket, Division 6, was Auburndale. They fell at Bonduelle. We talked a little bit about Bonduelle this year with their win over Whitburn early on. Bonduelle beat Auburndale 34-21. Bonduelle 10-1. Auburndale finishes an outstanding campaign 9-2. Blake Robb 11-20, 142 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 12 rushes, 41 yards, 10 tackles on defense. Colton Weiler 16 rushes, 49 yards and a score. Nathan Richardson 4 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown. For Bonduelle, Cade Johnson, very efficient to say the least at quarterback. 8 of 10, 182 yards, 2 touchdowns. Sam Roberts, 4 catches, 123 yards. Obviously the number 1 target, had a touchdown as well for Bonduelle. But Auburndale, again, it wasn't that long ago. They were playing a split schedule of 8-player and 11-player. In the last couple of years, they've been simply outstanding.
Yeah, great for them. That conference is so much better when they're good, right?
Yes,
like those and then them, Edgar, Abbotsford now competing for the top of that, and a really good Bonduelle program historically, and a good team this year. Is that the matchup this week then, Bonduelle and Coleman? So that should be just like if it would have been Abbey and Auburndale on the other side, this is a conference matchup on that side of 2 teams with a lot of individual positive history as well as probably some really competitive games over time.
The first time it was 22-20 this year. So obviously there was a very tight one earlier this season. So that should be, again, for folks, if they can find it somewhere, that'd be probably an interesting game to keep an eye on. And then Division 7, Edgar, really no problem with Shiocton, 37-0. Edgar now 10-1. Shiocton, who made the playoffs at 3-6, got a first-round win, even with that 3-6 record, finishes 4-7. 21-0 after 1, 35-0 at halftime. Will Hackle, 10 rushes, 154 yards and a touchdown. Maverick Butt, 14 rushes, 83 yards and a couple of scores. Leighton Schuett, 4 catches, 67 yards and a touchdown. Ty Schnelly, who the coach mentioned, on defense, had 12 tackles. Again, Edgar is so good, but they have not had the toughest road. I mean, it's really been interesting because they faced the number 8 seed in the first round. They faced the number what was Shiocton, because they were a lower seed that won as well. So probably the number 5 seed.
They were the 5 forward,
which is pretty amazing. At 3-6 to be a number 5 seed, but it shows if you're playing a good conference, it's good that you get rewarded for that. And now coming up, they'll take on the number 6 seed, Lord's Academy, who beat Hilbert 35-27. So it's great to be good. It's also great to have a road that keeps them fresh, as Coach Sinz was talking about as well.
Right. I don't know much about Lord's Academy, but traditionally Hilbert has a really nice program, and this looked like it was a tough game, like that Hilbert played them tough. So probably a quality opponent coming over this week. Interesting to me too when you look at this bracket for Edgar, they traditionally have kind of been more Eastern schools with Regis and East and Southeast as Cadet and some of those in that direction. So interesting, or West, I should say. They're more usually go West. So this year to have this bracket be these teams from the East is maybe some newer matchups for Edgar and them seeing some different schools as well. Kind of one more thing I want to touch on about Coach Sinz too. He pays such attention to detail and statistics and knows all those things. When he was rattling off about his players and their size today and saying so-and-so is 6 foot tall and about 222 pounds, like just about 222. So, but those details are what give you 7+ state championships.
That's absolutely right. And real quick note that I saw this week that with the success qualifier that Edgar will be going up next year. So it'll be, and Regis is up in D6 this year. So who knows, they could be playing each other again starting next year, at least for a little while. Let's look ahead. Let's start with the DC Everest game coming up against Waunakee. And again, it's always nice to have a matchup where we've seen the teams, both teams, and we saw Waunakee a couple weeks ago. We've seen DC Everest. But offensively, it just feels like this Evergreen squad is purring, to say the least.
Yeah, and I felt like Wausau West, who probably wasn't hitting on all cylinders. They played a tough game against Waunakee, but offensively, like they just weren't up firing on all cylinders, even all the way through the end. Gave Waunakee some struggles in that game. So when I look at how good Everest has been playing for four consecutive, starting with the conference championship game again, or wasn't the game that got locked up, the conference championship game against Spash in overtime, and what their offense did in that. Ever since then, they've just been rolling. So I would probably have to see something out of Waunakee that we haven't seen since the playoffs started for them to slow it down. Now that I've said that, I hope I didn't jinx the Evergreens, but I think Coach Mitchell is doing some really special things there, and what's nice about what they're doing is so many different guys are doing things really well right now. So you would have to really shut down. I mean, it's been the tight end. It's been the running back running and catching. It's been the quarterback throwing and rushing. And some of their weapons haven't even showed up in the stats in the last couple weeks. I'm sure they're doing a great job blocking and doing other things. And obviously one of the things we don't talk very much about, but if you're going to have a great offense, your offensive line is doing things really well. And we know they have a really special offensive line this year.
And Blake Bankston mentioned earlier what his numbers are. He has 1,900 rush yards. He has 599 receiving yards.
Yeah, and a boatload of touchdowns.
Yeah, so I mean that's what my math is. That's 2,499 yards of combined between rushing and receiving. So just stellar. Other area teams in action. We have Medford against Logan again. Number 1 Medford, number 3 Logan in Medford. Again, Medford's got this far. This has been the point.
Yep.
This is the point where usually that lack of a pass game comes back and bites them. I'm curious to see if the number 1, if they're forced to pass the football, and number 2, if they're able to get past this and get to the Final Four.
Yeah, and then these matchups mean nothing other than common opponent, so you look at it a little bit. Is I know East played Logan early this season, and it was that kind of that storm night where it was a shortened game, but it was kind of a blowout at that time, and we know that Medford kind of took it to East as well. So I think probably a pretty good matchup. I do think Logan is pretty athletic, so they'll probably see a little different style of play than they've seen to this point. But that's an interesting one. I'm looking forward to seeing how that one ends up.
Division 5, Stratford, number 1 seed. Lake Country Lutheran, number 3 seed. Another game at Marshfield High School again, like last week for Stratford. Obviously, again, just what Stratford has done this season. Frankly, it doesn't almost matter because right now they seem to be a team that's a step ahead.
Yeah, the only thing I would say in this matchup, and obviously Stratford is a machine, is Lake Country Lutheran is a team that has won state championships. Like, this is a team that comes in knowing how to win playoff games, and to them, this is a D6 school that they're playing.
That's true.
And so I think that this is a D5 school who has had a lot of success historically. So I still think it's going to be tough to stop Stratford at this point, but might be one of their toughest matchups since the Edgar game.
And that's one of the things as well. I mean, so often, I remember a number of years back when Stratford had one of their best teams, and they had one bad half. I mean, all season it came in the state championship game, but still, again, when you get to this level, I think maybe I was a little curt in terms of Lake Country Lutheran, but when you get to this point, there's no softies left. I mean, at this point, everybody's been tested. You don't win 2 playoff games without having real skillful teams. What do you think? This is considered. It's a new labeling I just saw. They're calling it sectional final now.
Yes. This would be the sectional semifinal.
No, actually, they're calling it a sectional final because they're going to say that there's 4 sectionals. State semifinal, state final.
Okay.
But if it's a sectional final, should it
be neutral?
Should it be neutral?
Well, interesting, because historically, sometimes the sectional final is a team playing on their home court, but you have to put in for those ahead of time. So that'll be interesting if they're, as we call it that, and we have some of these matchups, if that isn't something that maybe gets corrected in the next year or two.
Interesting. And then Division 7, it is Edgar against Lord's Academy. And number 1, Edgar. Number 6, Lord's Academy, again in Edgar. But again, Lord's Academy, you said it. Hilbert had beat Iola, who had a good season in the very same conference that Edgar is in. It's always interesting to have a team like Lord's Academy, because sometimes some of those private schools are put in conferences where they're playing with larger school competition.
Yeah, we kind of, the one I'm probably most familiar with would be Notre Dame Academy, who's in the Fox River Classic over there, and holds their own. Usually the type of team that finishes with 2 or 3 losses, gets maybe a 4 or 5 type seed, and then goes and thumps on people in their division. So private school, a little bit nothing different, probably their version of Regis with maybe not the history of Regis, but I tell you what, this is the time of year that Edgar shines probably as much, if not more, than Stratford, and their defense is so good. It'll be interesting, but I would have to say it's going to take quite an effort from Lord's Academy to slow Edgar down.
And in 8-player football, they're to the semifinals, and one of the interesting things I noticed is that all 4 number 1 seeds are in the semifinals. They had 4 blocks of 4 teams, and the number 1 seeds have made it. Owen Withey is taking on Highland, a game at Stanley Boyd on Friday night, and Northwood Salon Springs is taking on Lena St. Thomas Aquinas. And I saw Owen Withey last week returning the opening kickoff for a touchdown, and then McDonald in the final seconds of the first half kicked it deep again, and they ran it back for a touchdown. And I know as a coach, boy, those are the ones that just annoy to be, you can't give away multiple special teams touchdowns at this point. But.
Right, and when you do it going into the half like that, what an impact. Kind of like, keep going back to it, but kind of like the Packer game last week when they threw the interception right before halftime. What a heartbreaker that is.
Well, you may be back next week. I'm on vacation. I need a much needed time off after everything that's going on. I will have a show next week. I'm gonna put together kind of a recordings and stuff like that. We may be back together in 2 weeks, but if not, I want to make sure to thank you, because you've been here every week this year, 12 weeks in a row. And been fantastic. I just love, because you do, the conversations that we have and with our guests have been stellar. And I hope that if some of our area teams are involved in the state championship round, that we'll bring you back for a half and half as winter sports starts in 2 weeks. In fact, our first broadcast of high school basketball is coming up 13 days from now. So it'll be one of those weeks where we have basketball and football going on. But I just want to say thank you again for, if you're not back in 2 weeks, I want to make sure I say thank you right now.
Well, I appreciate it. It's awesome what you do with this, and the time and effort and energy you put into the show each week is amazing. It's so good for the kids in our area, the teams in our area, the programs, and I think it gives a lot of insight. Like, I think it opens the eyes to the people who listen about how special these young men and women are who are competing at this high school level, and the time and effort and energy that high school kids are putting into it. And then I think it's great.
The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.